This is an update to the video that I released a month ago, and while my predictions haven't changed, I've just added a couple of things to the video. One in particular is going to be just some small little clip issues that I had to resolve with YouTube on my channel. So I want to keep the video and its original integrity in place, but also wanted to add some additional commentary about what we've seen so far this spring. I don't think anything has really changed. I know people are buzzing about some of the stuff we've heard so far in camp, but remember, things change in camp. Sometimes we see things happen in camp and then the season starts and we go a totally different direction. So my predictions haven't changed. I'm just kind of re-releasing this video with some minor tweaks and also adding some updated commentary to some points that other people had made that I did not address in the original video. In this video, I want to summarize everything we've seen so far from the 3 Alabama quarterbacks in contention for the starting job. I'm also going to break down how I think the job will play out this fall. If you haven't seen all my videos breaking down each of the QBs, check out my channel and subscribe below. First, let's take a look at the 2016 season. Why? I'm not saying the players are the same, but I get a lot of deja vu when I break down this QB race.
Coach Saban, obviously this time of the year, everything's about competition leading to fall, but he made the comment recently, said, if we had to play today, it would probably be Cooper, but we don't have to play today.
Strictly based on the experience that he has compared to the other 3 quarterbacks.
So let's start with Jalen Milro. Not quite the incumbent, but the presumed player with the first crack at the job. With Milro, I think the thing that stands out, obviously, is his playmaking ability. In this game, Arkansas had mounted a big comeback and the game was getting tight. This run by Milro turned the tide of the game, literally. He has the speed and the ability to score on any play, much like a Michael Vick or a Lamar Jackson, and I think one day it could be generational. He also showed off some good throws in the A&M game last year and the A-Day game this spring, but the biggest negative for him is inconsistency as a passer. There are times when he struggles off his initial read or simply makes an ill-advised throw. Of course, he only has 1 start so far, and he figures to get better. The ultimate question is, how much? No one knows for sure, but I'm going to use Jalen Hurts as an example. With Hurts, there was always a sense that he was great in the running game, but good defenses could slow him down, especially in big games against LSU, Auburn, and ultimately Georgia in the national title game where he was benched for Tua. Fast forward a few years and what happened? Jalen had one of the greatest Super Bowl performances of all time. Here's my red flag with Milro. With Jalen Hurts, you didn't see a lot of those poor decisions we've seen Milro make. Even when Hurts struggled to move the ball, he didn't turn it over much. Ball security is something that's very important to Coach Saban. And it's hard to say definitively that Milro cannot improve. Players get better over time. We saw that with Hurts. But the concern I have right now lies more in the category of judgment and taking care of the football. When it comes down to who starts the first game, I think it's going to be Ty Simpson.
If you talk to those surrounding the program and those who keep touch with all things Bama, this is the guy who many thought would stamp himself this spring.
A true freshman quarterback in the opener, but he gets in very early.
After the catch.
Tied to her 2 for 8 on 3rd down. Need 13. Hurts shows the arm, throws it into the end zone for a touchdown.
Downs.
Hurts instead looks to the right and breaking wide open is Stewart.
Ty hasn't started a game yet for Alabama, and we don't have a lot to go off of. I think Ty has demonstrated more command of the offense and a better ability to make split decisions when things don't go as planned. While he can run, he's more like Bryce Young in that he only runs to create or when he needs to. In fact, I actually see a lot of similarities between the two. Yes, he's played against the second defense in the spring game, but he also had the second set of skill players. And outside of Justice Haynes, I really wasn't that impressed relative to the standard at Alabama with the second-team skill players. If we look back at 2016, Saban went with Blake Barnett in the opener over Cooper Bateman, who had just about as much experience as Milro does entering this year. If Alabama opened against Texas, my prediction would be that Ty starts at quarterback 100%. With the opener being Middle Tennessee, I think it really is a toss-up, but if I had to make a prediction, I'd say Ty gets at least enough meaningful reps to earn the start against Texas. I think it all boils down to Ty taking better care of the football and giving the team more in the passing game. Now we get to Tyler Buckner, and this is the wild card. Could he be the Jalen Hurts of this team? The dark horse that takes over ahead of schedule and gives this offense another gear? I think there's a very good chance of that happening. I've heard from reputable sources that the coaching staff really wanted to bring a better QB in, and while much of the college football world laughs at Alabama getting a backup quarterback from Notre Dame, do you really want to bet against Nick Saban's judgment? It's hard for me to say this in July, but I would not be surprised if we were reading tea leaves in August about how great Tyler Buckner looks in preseason camp. A lot like we heard about Jalen Hurts in 2016. I could see Ty get the surprise start in the first game or two, only to be replaced by Tyler at some point. Or Ty may take the job and run with it. It's really hard to say. Ty is the only one we haven't seen play meaningful snaps at the college level. And anyone that's played real football before knows there's always one or two guys in the first game that blow you away when the lights come on. And there's another guy or two who just don't have what it takes and completely disappoint you. And until the season starts and Ty gets meaningful snaps, we won't know where to categorize him. I don't think even Coach Saban could say for sure. We'll answer all that in September when the season starts. And where does that leave Jalen Milro? In this scenario, if Jalen Milro is not the starting quarterback, I predict he will transfer. I could see him transferring to a Big 12 school, a lot like Jalen Hurts did, to a Baylor or a TCU, and having a really, really good career. I'm not so sure he's a first-round quarterback at the next level, but neither was Jalen Hurts, which brings me to my next point. You can't rule out the possibility that Jalen Milro seizes the job, takes another step forward, and goes on a Heisman campaign of his own. This is all really hard to project, and anyone that says they know what's going to happen is completely lying, because the one thing we do not know is how much a player can improve. How many people honestly would have saw Jalen Hurts at the end of his career and think that he could turn into what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles? For every player with all the intangibles and character, there's another guy out there like a Tim Tebow that you just don't want to bet against, but goes on to disappoint us when we think about what he's going to do at the next level. Also, Dylan Lonergan is a player that a lot of people have mentioned, someone that's caught a lot of buzz in preseason camp. I love a lot of what I've seen of Dylan Lonergan. I almost started to do a 8-day video on him and may do one in the future. I think he's got a lot of potential because he reminds me of just a throwback quarterback who can go out and play ball. The thing about Lonergan, he's still a true freshman, but he did play at a very high level in high school. So that's the kind of player you do want to keep your eye on because a lot like Jalen Hurts, he came in as a true freshman and made a big impact. With Lonergan, I think there's a scenario where he does enter throughout the middle of the season, perhaps if the offense is really struggling after going through all three of these quarterbacks. I just find it hard to believe that with all three quarterbacks that we've been talking about, none of them will take over and lead this team to a great season. But, even if they make it throughout the year in the top five and kind of struggle at quarterback, there's always the chance that Lonergan takes over at the end of the season or in the playoffs, a lot like we saw with Tua Tagovailoa. So, at the end of the day, Alabama's got a lot of options. We always hear people say trust the process and trust Coach Saban. I wouldn't fret trying to figure out what's going to happen, but I do believe that there's going to be one quarterback that takes over this job at some point, sooner or later, and leads this team to a big season. I do think Alabama's going to get back to the college football playoff, but I don't think they'll be the only SEC team. Looking at Georgia's schedule, it's hard to see them missing the playoff, but if they lose in Knoxville, there's a good chance that 3 SEC teams get in the playoff, especially if Tennessee wins a rematch against Alabama and Atlanta. In that scenario, Georgia's not going to get left out. That really leaves room for only one other team, which I would think to be the Big Ten champion, Ohio State or Michigan. I'm going to go with Michigan here, although it's hard to count out Ohio State. This is a very bold prediction, and I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe.